Kam on banda la mot pan qua win ne chuende mong doi pen hop quan bat. We long cho chung toi bet we hui ni chuende wa sau dala we ban tan bat. Do you understand anything that I said?
No, I think it may be a prayer or something.
Perfect.
But
So
I don't understand.
doesn't matter. So thank you for being part of the symposium. And of course, looking forward to your session. But one,
You
first,
too.
first you have to tell us about the symposium, then about yourself.
Mhm.
What is the symposium all about?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much, Vikram, to inviting me for inviting me to join the symposium. This symposium is talking.
One, you disappeared. You're frozen. Signal is a problem, and you're on mute. All that has happened. Everything that has to go wrong has gone wrong. So signal went. You froze.
Sorry for all this.
You want to go some?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes. So hello everyone, and thank you, Vikram, for inviting me to join the symposium. And this symposium is going to be about colonization, decolonization, and mediation. And mainly, I'll share about my experience relating to the colonial mindset and how it impacts on mediation in my country and also in my work. And hopefully my experience can be useful and interesting to you all. So at first, I would like to also introduce myself. If you already watched the previous symposium session, you know that I am Nguyen from Vietnam. I'm currently working as the head of engineering and construction in UPC Renewables Vietnam. We are working in wind projects. And I have been working in the construction industry, not just in wind projects since 2010, or probably 2009 as well. I started working in railways and then expressway projects. I studied 2 years in the UK. And also I worked in high-rise building projects and fertilizer chemical plant. And now I'm working in wind projects for 4 years already. So that is about myself. My personal life, I have a family. I am now living away from my parents. I am living in Ho Chi Minh City, but I am originally from Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. I have a child, 2 years and a half. Yes, and he is a very cheerful, and he have I mean, since the time that I have a child, I learned a lot from him, being a very natural people with our instincts, and myself, I think I am growing up with him, with my son. So so maybe first, Vikram, would you like to ask me any questions, or I just feel free to share my
what
story?
you have to do is you have to give me a minute. Is there any other place where you are where the signal is better? Because sometimes you freeze on the screen. So I don't want your presentation to go wrong. Is there any space there? Closer to the Wi-Fi or something? Is there something there? A space that you can sit in?
Closest one already, but I think better I use the network, the signal from my phone.
Yeah,
let me do that.
Try that. Up till then, I'll just go through the website where people can find information about it. So take a minute, not a problem.
Sure.
So basically, you can go to mediatorvikram.com and you'll find details about, of course, the symposium, and of course about myself. So social media, connect on social media, send me a message, be part of the activities. So what all can you do? You can support the dispute resolution revolution, as I call it, and the world, be part of the World Mediation Circle. All the details are there. So in the shows and events, what do you find? You find the link to the schedule of the events, and of course about the events. So the symposium, you can of course get an idea of the schedule, which will be link will be up here, and the other symposia which have taken place. So you can find that here, and you can find details of all the events and shows and on YouTube. So please have a look there. Are we better off now? One. So that's how it is. Have a look. So various shows: Evolution of a Mediator, In Conversation with the Beautiful Mind. Like I'm going through this one only because I'm waiting for you. Are you ready?
Yes. I think that, do you think that the signal is getting better now?
Yeah, at least it's not breaking up right now. So let's go with this. So one,
Sure.
totally up to you whenever, and if you want me to come in, please call me in. Otherwise, it's your show. Please, about colonization, decolonization, and mediation.
I'm ready whenever you are.
Now you're ready. Please. Now it's your show from now on.
So hello everyone. So I'd like to share about the colonial impact in mediation and also in my job. I think that as you know, in Vietnam, in my country, we have been colonized by many countries in the world. So a lot of people especially people in the south of Vietnam, where I'm working now, have been affected a lot by the colonization time. And I think one thing I would like to mention today, one of the impacts is anger and temper. A lot of times when I work in construction, I have to work with either the project manager, the site manager, and the other people working under them. They can be workers or they can be engineers. But the majority of site managers, the image of site managers in Vietnam are quite kind of people with short temper. And you know, probably because they have to work with workers. And the colonial impact is that in the past, when we were colonized, the colonists normally tried to show their power and demand out people by shouting, by showing that, yes, power is shown by anger. And that's why it's have become the impact and become the normal behavior of somehow a leader in Vietnam or a manager in Vietnam. So whenever we have conflicts in construction fields or sites, or even not really conflicts, it's just a demand, it still comes with a lot of shouting. And as a mediator, working to mediate people, the first thing I think we have to do is to control the temper in the meeting and in the process. So I can share with you one of the experience. My previous project was a chemical plant, building a chemical plant. And we needed to build 5 buildings and a processing building. Because we have about like at least 5 or 6 separate contractors, so they have conflicts in terms of like works responsibilities and the boundaries, like the right of way of the work. Where is it where my work start, or is that the other contractors? and about the elevation. For example, sometimes they have to manage one layer and then the other one manage the second layer. So one time when their layer finished, but it's settled, and then the other manager, the other contractor joined, and then they needed to measure very carefully. But in terms of technical, it's very clear. It's 1 + 1 is 2. But people normally don't want to take responsibility, because if they take responsibility, it comes with money. They have to pay more. So we need, as a client, I needed to gather the contractors in a meeting to identify, okay, who will be responsible for the settlement, and then who will compensate for the settled degree of elevation in our projects. But normally the people didn't, they came to the meeting, they started with a lot of shouting. They didn't really focus on the contents of the work, the contents of the issue itself. So first, I needed to tell them about the communication rule. First, I would like you to respect each other in the meeting. It's not about the meeting today. It's not about who is right or who is wrong. It is about the issue and the solution. So once you mention about the communication protocol, for example, like listen actively and communicate respectfully, and then you need to tell about the agenda, what a couple of questions in order to identify the issue and what is the real issue. And after that, we can focus on the technical matters. We ask questions about technical matters and then let the contractors one by one answer the question. And then by their answers, we will time by time identify the solution. So the way that I helped them to go through, of course, a lot of, over the meeting, they still shout, but in order for me to control the process of mediating in the meeting, I need always to repeat, okay, please calm down. I would like you to, again, respect our communication protocol. Yes, so it is how my experience, I would like to share my experience with you and how we could resolve a meeting, resolve disputes in construction. The second experience that I would like to share is the colonial impact is also relating to races. So in construction, especially in my country, Vietnam, where we are still considered as a developing country, then normally expats or international people or foreigners like Westerners, they are still considered as superior and have more experience, especially the people who have white faces. And as like myself, a Vietnamese and also a woman working in construction, I have to prove that, yes, I can work as much as a white person can. But it is not about creating another war in order to prove myself. It is about acting normally, acting as the same way as other people do, and to be able to stand out. So when I worked with my first boss in this company, yes, he's also as a manager and also as a leader, he started to have a lot of like complaints and then shouting as well. And he always said that you don't have the experience, I have the experience. Because the wind projects, the wind industry was very new in Vietnam some years ago. But instead of being very, this is also my advice and my experience as well. Instead of feeling so reserved and feel disrespected by the people, we need to be very calm. We need to understand who we are, and we need to see the long run. What is our goal? And sometimes I have to deal with the arguments among my team as well, because the leader, he wants to show
A bit of a technical issue Juan is facing, but she's back. She's back. Yes, Juan. You might have to unmute yourself.
Yes, sorry. Really, I don't know why I was kicked out again from the internet.
Bit of a signal issue. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It's signals going up and down. That's okay. We understand. We're getting the picture. Yeah.
Yeah. So another suggestion for myself, as per my experience, a lot of times I have been the person in the middle to calm down the team and help the team with dealing and helping them to understand each other. And also sometimes I needed to come to the leader and tell them that we need respect. We really need respect. Even we are your staff, we are your employees, but we need respect. And we also need to tell the other, my colleagues, that because we are still a developing country, we need to learn. And what is our long-term goal? We don't really care about the past. We don't care about the past, our origin is. We care about the future. We have the same goal here, is to build a project. So be positive, and we only take the message. We don't take the tone, we don't take the behavior, we don't take the relationship as a boss and an employee. So that's why how our relationship gets better. And as myself now here is working as a head of construction and engineering construction, I can see that I myself have been proven myself that yes, I can do it. I am not a white person. I am not a man, but I am recognized because I am patient. I know who I am. I know what I can do. So over time, people can recognize that.
Right.
Yeah.
You want me to come in, or you?
So probably. I think basically I would like to share. Is there any comments from you?
No, I think
or questions from you, Vikram?
No, I'm finding it really interesting because what perspective you have brought in about how organizations, emotions, attitude towards people that being affected by colonization and your workspace. I think it's very interesting, and we'll of course after you finish what you're saying, we'll again discuss this, because I'm finding this, and if you want to elaborate more on this, I think this is another interesting aspect, because sometimes we get lost in what was the past in relation to mediation and how that got affected, how did the law get affected. The good part is you are removed from all that, so I really like this perspective, so please.
Yes, I also can share with you that I think over time, also a women, gender is one of the impact, gender inequality, and the way people perceive gender is also one impact from the colonization. When I started to work in wind and also construction, even I studied in the UK, I came back Vietnam, and then I really wanted to work in construction again. And a lot of people say that you are a woman, you only can work as an admin or an interpreter or a secretary. But the way that I perceive their statement is not upset. I don't feel upset. I don't feel angry. I just moved on. And the fact is, I don't recognize myself as a woman. I don't recognize myself as a difference between any kind of gender, even I really appreciate men in some way. I also appreciate the, the gender. I mean, in between men and women, I mean, guys and lesbians. I mean, there's no differences in people, in human beings. We are the same. The differences is how much you try, how much you want to continue. So what I want to do, I still continue to do it. And then I think that a woman have some also strengths in compared to other genders. So I can utilize my strengths in work. And a lot of people, a lot of women in construction fields, I advised, I talked to them, and I asked them, why you decided, you study in finance, but you decided to work, you you decided to work as an admin only, an order document controller. So I told them, as long as you don't stop trying, you still can grow and you still can manage to become a recognized woman in the construction industry. Did another story of myself, and I hope that it will be useful and very interesting to you and everyone who is watching this symposium. So maybe Vikram, would you like to
You go into mute sometimes. That's is that you've gone into mute? Man, is that your son there?
Yes,
So
my
call
son.
him. Call
Sorry.
him in. Why can't you call him in? Why can't he be part of the discussion? Let's get him in.
He is quite naughty, so I'm
So
afraid
that's
that
good.
maybe.
That's good. Let's see how he reacts. Let's see how he reacts. Let's call him in. Call him in. He'll be more comfortable in your arms than in someone else's arms.
You are correct. Yeah.
That is where the mother comes in, and this is where I was talking about in the inaugural session about how women and the motherly instincts, how it can help in mediation also. So
yeah.
let's get him in. Keep him on your laps. We'll see.
Fong, come on in.
Yeah. Let's see our cheerful.
I would like to introduce you to my son. Here he is.
Hello. What's his name? What's his name?
Please say hello to. His name is Fong.
Fong.
How old are you? Bao nhiêu tuổi? 2 years old. He is 2 years old. His name is Fong.
How are you?
How are you?
How are you?
You say, I'm good, thank you. All right, sitting here.
Am I supposed to speak to him in Vietnamese? Because you didn't understand any of the Vietnamese I said. But Ban Kho Quang?
Oh, really?
What is this? Ban Kho Quang.
Khỏe không? Bạn có khỏe không?
Quang.
Yeah, that is say that means how are you, right?
Yes.
Con có khỏe không? He said, I'm not well. I'm not feeling well.
No? Yeah, not feeling well.
No, he is very naughty. So sometimes I think also this is the age that children start to say no instead of say yes, and say something. I mean, in contrast with what he is thinking.
But when I'm thinking from the discussion that you're having, of course, look, it's really interesting, and I'm sure you can bring out more on the aspect of colonization and how it's affected organization. Because one aspect of colonization we keep talking about is divide and rule. That's the way the colonizer went about it. So is that something also that you see in the organization?
I also can see, we as a country that also, I mean, every people in the world will be called indigenous. We used to live in community, and the natural way of human beings is that we live in community, and then normally we will appoint a community leader. So in that way, the community leader will be the person who is voted, who is trusted to support the community, to guide and lead. And it will be a peace. It still can be considered as peace if the leader does not overrule their power or their trust from the other people. So we can recognize the differences between colonization and the natural community communication and culture. But because Vietnam, we are also Asian, and the root is still a lot of mindsets who actually impacted from the other generation. I mean, from the ancestors, and on the way we actually grow our children, bring up our children, and on the way we work. Yes. So I can share with you something like this. In order to be a mediator at the court, we need to actually be one of the persons that have really clean history record, meaning we haven't ever made legal mistakes, misconduct. I think it is also the right way, but sometimes I would like to suggest that we need to live in a world where there is no prejudice. So mediator, if they can prove themselves, and they are recognized by the community, and with like some interviews, for example, they can be selected to work in courts, for example, even they have did something wrong in the past. So I would like to say that we should live in a world where there is no prejudice.
I think, again, another very interesting point. This is very interesting. You were going to say something, I just cut you off here. But this is also very interesting because I keep talking about this, that communities themselves will and do identify those whom they want as mediators, whom they trust. And this aspect of their history, their conduct over that period that they have seen those people, every little thing they're looking at, people are watching, they're observing people. And all that is something that accumulates into them saying, okay, we trust this person to help us resolve the dispute. So we have to put this across. I mean, and I've actually been spoken about it a lot. Of course, you will not be able to watch my shows, all of them, or any, I don't know how many you follow, but this is one thing that I am putting out, and you've actually endorsed that part, that this is what you will also look at in relation to the trust. So I think this is really important, but I cut you off. You were saying something. So yeah.
Yes. And what I also really like in mediation, I mean, I've been working in the construction for since 2010, and of course, over time I gained trust over time, a lot more, and a lot of people say that these managers often shout at the others, but they don't shout at you. Probably because I'm a woman, or maybe because I have trust, because they trust me. And a lot of times, when they have conflicts in the field, they will call me to help them to say, hey, in our procedure, in our regulation, in our project protocol, this job, this part of work is whose responsibility? So I think that trust is something that is very intangible. It's not something that you can buy from anyone. It is how you actually build up over time. And even we live and have a lot of impact from colonization in the past, that we say, okay, now all the companies that I worked with is foreign companies. So I need to gain trust from them to say that I have no difference. Vietnamese have no difference from other people from other developed countries. We learned very fast. We worked really hard, and we proved ourselves that we have no difference from other people from other countries. So
Why
we gain trust.
Why difference? I mean, we are better. That's what you have to say. We are better. We know our thing better. Why not? Why do we have to even say that you are comparing to someone who might not be as good as you? So that's the way that you have to, of course.
In my country, yes, in my country, something is called expat, meaning the expatriates who came to Vietnam from other developed countries like America, like Japan, Korea, or Britain, Germany, for example, other developed countries. So they are considered as expats, and they also are considered more superior, have more experience, more knowledge than Vietnamese. But the tendency now is good that a lot of good Vietnamese companies are growing a lot. We proved ourselves that we Vietnamese people should work for Vietnamese. But anyway, I don't see any differences. Working for Vietnamese companies or working for foreign companies have no difference from each other. The thing is, what culture, whether it's good, if it's work for me to contribute, whether the company has good mission, then I decide to work for this company. So it's not because it is a foreign company that I decide to work for that.
No, I think this is another another interesting point that you brought about the expats and how the expat is considered superior. So maybe look, that's the way. Look, colonization did not happen in the I mean, it's not at that scale that it took place later. It started off with some businessmen coming into countries and doing business there, and it expanded. So the aspect of the person feeling superior and treated superior makes the person maybe believe that, oh, I can actually take over. I don't know, that's the kind of feeling. So that you also brought in, look, I am not a sociologist, so we have someone coming next after you who is also, she's doing sociology, maybe she can throw light on this. But I think this is important because just the way you perceive someone as superior, because a person comes from outside, not knowing how this person compares to people in their own country, you don't know that this is someone moved in and now in isolation you're looking at that person. And this is how maybe colonization, that's one of the steps that happened there. The other aspect of the trust part of it, again, I'm saying that of course you're not connecting it to the law and all that, but to a certain extent let's connect it there, that the colonizer did not want you to trust your people. They wanted you to trust their institution, their people. So this aspect, to move away from that and that whole colonized mindset that, oh, we can't trust our own person to help us. We have to go to this institution which the colonizer gave us. So I think this aspect also needs to be, because this is conditioning of the mind over years. To recondition the mind is going to take its time, but you have to throw light on in your community what is the situation now. Earlier, what was it? Of course you might not know so much about it, of course, but you must find out what was the situation earlier, how did disputes get resolved in communities, what is happening today, or has the colonizers institution taken over totally. So it's something on that you have to throw light on. And let me also one second before you go further. What I'm thinking is that we'll discuss this, but maybe let's keep some time after this where you can recap all this in Vietnamese. So we can have, what I'll do is I'll record that separately right after this, a small, maybe even 10 minutes, just recap it all. I think that'd be useful. We can put it out in Vietnamese.
Yeah. So you would like me to speak in Vietnamese, right?
Later. I will have we'll record maybe 10 minutes. We'll cut this one and then we'll record that separately. But you have to throw light on this aspect about the community part of it. What do you know about the earlier situation? What is its situation right now?
Yeah. What I know about the colonization is that there was a lot of beating and fighting, and a lot of people who needed to hide in order to not be caught. And about communism, and the way that we reacted is a lot of people lived in fear. We lived in fear, or the colonists. They ruled our country with fear. And I think now it still affected us, as I also shared in my previous in the previous session when I joined. Was domestic violence in Vietnam is still happening, and a sad story happened to me as well. My one of my relatives died. He committed suicide because he was really upset and affected by his dad, who actually beat him a lot. He beat him terribly. And my relative wanted to go to study abroad like me, and his dad promised him that he would take him to study abroad, but he didn't keep the promise, and he even didn't take him to the university entrance exam. And you know what, the colonial mentality, it's something that intruded into many people, especially the people in the north of Vietnam, thinking that they think that they are the father of the family. They can make decisions for their children. They can do whatever they want in order to make their children follow their guidance or follow their demand, which really a sad story because I loved my relative a lot. And first his mom died, also because of partly because of domestic violence, and then he also decided to commit suicide. It was a really big shock. And I still can see that happening. It's not the domestic violence, not just in the family, but everywhere in Vietnam. For example, when on the street, when you started to, when I was hit on the street, that man, he actually drove in the wrong side of the road, but he started to call many other people to circle me with like a big gang, and then he started to slap me on the face, and said that no, I was wrong, I drove wrong, and he wanted me to like say sorry to him and give him money, but I said that no, I will call the police. The police will say whether I am wrong or I am right. So I think from my experience, if we live in fear, if we are always scared, we will be even surpassed more by the people who think that they have power. They can use their violence to surpass people. But we should not live in fear. So this is another story that I would like to share with you in order for us to go apart from the past, from the colonized culture. We should not live in fear anymore.
Wow, I mean, amazing. One, what you have connected here and how this is actually impacting society, and of course disputes. I think this is what you brought out. I'm really enjoying this. I mean, I should not enjoy it. I'm not enjoying it in that sense of, but I'm thinking that you've brought in such a good perspective to the entire thing, and how people's mindset. Look, what I mean, there was something where I was reading about it, or I was listening somewhere. Someone said they studied rats, and in rats they gave them something to eat. They enjoyed that. Then after that, whenever they went to eat that, they used to give them electric shocks whenever they touched that particular thing. And this kept happening. They said that after that, it got so ingrained in them that 7 generations stayed away from that thing. So that's how much this kind of a thing can affect people. It's gone into the genetic structure, into the brain. I think this is something that what you brought out. So to actually look at disputes from this aspect, that a lot of it is
Yes.
ingrained so much that to undo it is going to really
Yes.
need a lot of effort. And this is where I talk about heart, soul, spirituality, healing, all those things.
Yeah.
There is so much to
Yes.
do there. There's so much to do there. Don't take the dispute at the way you are looking at the in what you say on the face of it. How much you can go into it,
Yes.
deep into this part. I think it's really what you brought in. I think it's very important. Yeah, please.
Yeah, thank you. The story from you about brass is like also is relating to mediation as well. People think dispute is like argument. People think that it is the differences in mindset must be solved by arguments. No, it's not. For me, dispute can be resolved, yes, by mediation, meaning that we do not, we are not scared of going to the media. We should be the person who actually manage the process and manage the temper and help them to control and just focus on the issue. A lot of times because I work in the construction, so people in the meetings, they shout a lot. And I myself have to stay away from fear. And of course, whenever I hear people shout, I don't express my anger. I have a lot of stress, to be honest. It's true that I have a lot of stress because I have to refrain. When you hear people shouting, it's a lot here coming through my chest. And it's because I cannot shout like them. So I have to refrain it in my chest. So it is about how much anger, how much temper, how much emotion you have to control in order to go through the process and still be really clear in your mind what you need to do to help the two parties solve their issues.
Well, what you brought out again is, I mean, it's really important, and I've looked at it, and I keep telling people about this, that in India you have northern India and you have southern India. Of course, I live in now northern India. Now, in northern India, the attitude of people, the way they conduct themselves is very different from southern India. And I put it
Yeah.
on this aspect that all the invaders came into the north because they were coming in from what is Afghanistan and that side. They were coming in from the north. So the northern part of India had to deal with these people, and the attitude of people, the way they had to conduct themselves, actually this was maybe their way of handling it. And that is why today, if you talk to someone from southern part of India, they will tell you that people from Delhi, they won't say northern India, or they'll say northern India also, maybe they'll generalize it, but they'll say people from Delhi are loud, they talk in this manner, I mean, they'll find it rude, maybe. So I'm saying
Yeah.
this is something that gets ingrained, that this is how you have to handle this, and this is
Yeah.
your way of survival. It's a survival thing.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
so I don't know, but in Vietnam also, do you is there differences in region in the way they were actually colonized? Is there some kind of a difference there? In
Yes, people in the north and people in the south also have different stereotypes. Um, People in the north tend to be very polite, and they will think very carefully before they talk. And sometimes when they start a talk with some sentences or two sentences, it's not what they want to say. The meaning of what they want to say will put at the end of their talk. But people in the South, it's very direct. They will just say it right away. They are very practical, but they are also very outgoing. Practical and outgoing. Something very interesting about Ho Chi Minh City is like, I really like, they say, Ho Chi Minh is a city where it's very easy for you to come. It's also very easy for you to leave. It's also very easy for you to be remembered, but it's also very easy for you to be forgotten. So it is something that I really like Ho Chi Minh City, where I am living now. I also like my hometown, Hanoi, but Ho Chi Minh is somewhere I feel it's so pleasant to live. It's so pleasant for me to talk to people, everyone in the street.
So you have to tell me which part of Vietnam is Ho Chi Minh City and which part is Hanoi in terms of north and south, because
Hanoi is from the north. It is from the north, and Ho Chi Minh is a part of the south.
so basically the people from Hanoi are nice and
And
polite.
actually, the South has been impacted a lot by colonization. That is why they've been connected with the foreign countries like France, like America. We don't say, some of the people, the rulers in the past, they were wrong. They brought war and they wanted to invade us. They wanted to invade our country. But the people, the soldiers, or some of the people who were sent to Vietnam, some of them are very good people. It is just because of their job. They have to do it. They have to work with violence. But it doesn't mean that they are bad people. They brought some really good culture to our country.
Absolutely. I think everyone, of course, finally they're people, they're human beings, but they have to, being the role that they're playing, they're obviously they have to act in that manner. But I'm just thinking that this whole thing about the north-south part of it. So in relation to dispute resolution, now say, let's just look at a community, because you grew up in Hanoi, did you? You grew up there?
Yes, I did.
So now, if you have some idea in the way people there resolve disputes, and today, if you're sitting in Ho Chi Minh City, do you see a difference? And what is the difference you see? It'll be interesting to see that.
Yes, the people in the north, sometimes they don't try to resolve their disputes. They don't resolve their relationships. They keep that hatred inside them for a very long time. They keep the unpleasant feeling inside them, and then they still communicate with each other. They don't face the issue. So that's why in family, we still have to live with domestic violence a lot in the north. We don't resolve it. We don't say, my relative, I know that he didn't really have the strength to tell his dad that he loved him and he wanted his dad to change. And a lot of us, even myself or my mom, we told him that he is wrong, but we didn't really know how to help him improve and resolve his family. But people in the South, they tend to face it very carefully, and they don't really live in a kind of like family-oriented culture. When they grow up like after they have family, they started to live away from their parents. And the parents, they can support some financially, but it's not majority of it. And children started to feel very independent from their parents, and they like to do business by themselves. But people in the north tend to rely a lot from their parents, and that's why we have to follow, we have to obey. Parents say that we give you money, we already put you in a very good condition, living condition like this, so you have to follow what I want you to do. But people in the South say that I can do it by myself alone. I can live independently. This is how we resolve disputes.
But do you think there is a difference in relation to, say, we're talking north-south, but is in terms of them wanting someone else to take a decision for them, and on the other side, for them to sit and actually take that decision themselves, to resolve it themselves. So this aspect of the courts and mediation, that difference that we have, do you see that difference in that attitude?
Exactly. Exactly. That is also impacted a lot. I mean, the colonial mentality that the people who have the authority can make a decision for themselves. And some people, they are very confident that with this, with my status, if I go to that authority, I can have a better position to win this case. I don't face the issue by telling the, the other party that we can resolve it ourselves. Why is that? Because we have, for example, people in the north. I mean, it's nothing wrong about that. But we have been getting used to being helped and support by the other people with better power, with better authority, and it is the easy way to resolve it. But people in the South, a lot of them, they think that I am independent. I don't want to be in disputes. I want to continue the relationship. I want to face it and directly resolve it. So I don't need any other person to solve my issue.
So another interesting thing we brought in, that maybe it'll be easier to promote mediation in the South. Let's start there. And then because the conditioning of the mind in the North might take some time, because they look at it that way. So I think that's very interesting. I mean, because what the
Yes.
yeah, because
Yes.
because what I find, but on one end you're saying that the South got affected more by colonization. So on one end we are saying that, and although I say that because of colonization, the structure of the courts came up a lot. The people looked at courts as places to resolve dispute. But on the other side, you're saying that these are more independent people, so they may
Right.
want to resolve it themselves and maybe not need authority figure. So this part I'm trying to understand how that part is happening. But you really, yeah, so I mean, this is interesting.
Yes, it's really interesting. I think one thing I would like to share is maybe about it is relating to culture. A lot of relating to culture. How much you are impacted by the external factors. It will not affect you at all. The 100%. The culture, the origin you have inside you, it will make you be yourself. So something I can say, like here in the north, in the south, we the weather, the climate is like the majority of the day is very hot, and there is a study that people living in a hot condition normally work less than people living in the cold climates. So I mean the efficiency, the output um, of the people living in the cold weather will also be higher than people living in the hot weather. And I think here as well it's impacted. I mean, it reflects that kind of science finding. But because we live in the hot weather, we tend to like work and enjoy our life. And in order to enjoy our life, we also will have a kind of sometimes stress-free mindset. And that is what I really like about living in Ho Chi Minh City.
Okay, this is another interesting thing, but okay, maybe this is maybe a little different from the colonization part of it, but
Yes.
because I know, interestingly, there was the symposium last year where there was someone from Indonesia, and
All
she
right.
was talking about how people who live on the coast and how people living in the hills, how
Right.
they look at disputes differently and resolving disputes differently, because the people on the coast, there has been no more interaction with people, So so their whole attitude towards disputes and people is different. So now you brought
Yeah.
in, now you brought in weather. She brought in where you stay. Now you brought in weather. She was talking about even the diet. She says people with the non-vegetarian diet handle things differently. The vegetarians and so there is a whole area to study on now. There is
Right.
diet, there is where you live, the hot part, the
Yeah.
cold
Yeah.
part, and of course
Yeah.
whether you were
Yeah.
colonized or not colonized, and those parts. So I think it's a
Yeah.
quite an interesting discussion.
Yeah.
And
But I would like to stress here is very important. People choose mediation is normally the people wants to have peace. People don't want to broadcast themselves in the courts about their issues, and they want to actually uh, keep the good relationships with the other party for a very long term. Sometimes when I work with the contractors who live in the south, they would try to keep the good relationship with the clients, and they see that they somehow can finish the job and help the client to finish the job. But one thing is um, the contractors in the south, they do not really 100% finish the job, because sometimes they quit the job very quickly because they don't see profit. When they don't see profit, some of them, they quit the job, or they will start to work slowly because they have no motivation. They have not less motivation. So I think it's not really about colonization or not colonization, but it is also the culture as well. But I would like to share with you that the southern people, because they have been living with Westerners for a very long time during the colonization, so they tend to because the soldiers, the American soldiers, for example, they went to the bar and they spent money in the bar, and they spread it that kind of enjoying life mindset. And I mean now the southern people, they have that kind of lifestyle, which like going to the bar, enjoying their life, women smoke, something like that, which is very different from other part of the country.
so again, interesting point that in terms of money being important, did the colonizer bring that aspect to it? Was it all about money and relationships about money? Was that again
Yes,
aspect of colonization and interaction? Because look, enjoying life is something that is again sold to you. If in the, because I keep talking about how movies influence things, drinking alcohol, the way it is
yes,
pushed through movies, and every scene some aspect of alcohol is happening, beer and wine and everything. That's not normal life, but that's the way it's told to people, that this is how you enjoy life. So whether that
yes.
concept of enjoying also is also a colonized aspect of it, how you have to enjoy life,
Mm.
is that also something we have to look at. Of course,
Yeah.
moving away from dispute resolution, I don't know whether we're moving away from dispute resolution. Maybe it is connected to dispute resolution, we
No,
don't
no,
know,
we are
but
still in the topic. Um,
no, it's
but but but
yeah.
but what I've learned a lot is like we see both sides of the aspect. It's colonization. Some part it impacts negatively in the colonized people, but it's somehow also there is a good side of it. It is a mixed culture. It is about the love. The American soldiers who fell in love with Vietnamese woman, for example, that is still, I mean, in a bad thing, there are still many good things happening.
Yeah, definitely. I
Yes.
mean, that's what we also have to bring out. I'm not saying we have to bring out only negative aspects.
Yeah.
We have to bring out the positives if there is, because I in this, I mean, in the inaugural session, I was talking about someone who's from UK who lives in New Zealand, Darren. He was telling
Yes.
me, look, oh, I mean, will it be right for me to be talking about it? I said, you can bring the positives. I mean,
Yes,
there
yes.
must be some positives. I mean, I was talking about,
Mm,
of course, I mean, of course, the way the economy and all got affected and negative, positive aspects of it, whatever you want to
yeah,
bring in. So bring in
yeah.
everything. I mean, we are not stuck with saying that we have to put down anyone or anything.
Mm,
We are
mm,
finally connecting it all down to, for me, it's down to whether mediation has been affected. And this is where a little more into the history of dispute resolution in Vietnam in communities that needs to be studied a little more, and which Juan is going to do. She's going to ask people, what have you heard? What used to happen? How are people, because the indigenous peoples and mediation, that was the idea, to let's go back into history and let's see.
yes,
And if you have some
yes.
idea, please throw some light on it.
Yes, and I think the reason why I love mediation is the we have to bring up bring up the positivity about the relationship. People, everyone, when they first got to each other, they have some good memories. And then when they start to know each other more, they started to have conflicts because of different mindsets, because of different ways of solving things, different ways of taking actions. But when they first thought of when they brought to each other, and then they still could see that both parties actually in the past they had a lot of hopes with each other. Why we wanted to work with the contractors from the beginning because we trusted them from the beginning that they are prestigious contractors, a lot of experience. But over time, they didn't see a lot of progress. The construction site had a lot of difficulties. Then they decided to feel, I mean, the people, not the big boss, the workers, the engineers, they started to feel tired. And then a lot of other projects, they needed manpower. They asked them to come. And then the contractors faced a lot of difficulties. And that is how the conflict started. But mediation, they helped people to brought up to bring up the positive of the relationship.
But tell
That's
me
the highlight.
two things you have to tell me. First, of course, you have to tell me that in
Mm.
relation to dispute resolution within your organization and your relationships with contractors, how does the expat look at it? How do they want to resolve it? And how does someone who's like you from Vietnam, how do you look at it? Do you look at it differently?
Yes, I can say to you that um, first, the previous expert who actually worked as a head of engineering, he didn't really want to work with that contractor. He wanted to stop the contract. He wanted to terminate the contract right away. Um, but when I joined the project again, because I had the 1 year, I had some time break, maternity leave, so I joined the project again. I saw it different ways. I still had hope from that contractor, so I came and talked to that contractor and said, I really understood your difficulties because of the high demand in the construction industry. It costs you shortage of materials and manpower, and it costs delay. But because two parties couldn't communicate with each other for a very long time, we didn't really focus on the issue. We, we let the project delay. And, and, and that is how I perceived the thing. I just saw the issue. I didn't look at that contractor as a bad contractor. And when I first communicated with them, even I am from the client, they heard me. They heard me telling them that I understood their difficulties. Then they started to speak up and ask for support. And you know, when they reacted with the previous head of engineering construction, both of them shouted a lot and claim the relationship just had a kind of like claim and conflict. It's not support. And if you say about support, it's not just a big claim. You have to break it down, how much you really need in order to get through this difficulty. We just give you that much. We cannot give you 100% what you want in order to cover up what you think can give you even profit. So that is how I resolved that issue, and we continue to work with that contractor.
Yeah, so that means you were looking at the other person's situation and how whatever difficulty that person had. Because I don't want to now talk about the expat being someone we generalize on where the expat came from, but that also that could be the individual's attitude. But the fact
I
is that
think so.
there is a difference in there was a difference in approach, and this is the difference in approach that we need.
Agree.
The other thing that you have to throw light on is, are you connected to any village in Vietnam? Is there
I have friends. I have friends that are Catholic or Christian, but I am not religious.
no,
I
with
don't
village
follow
no,
any
not
religion at
religion,
all.
village, any village in
All
India,
right.
any village.
All right.
Village.
Yes. I can tell you my projects are located in villages. And there are also a lot of stories about land acquisition, which is really sensitive. I cannot tell you everything because sometimes my boss is listening to this. He will not want me to tell everything about our projects. But one thing I want to say to you is people living in the village and community, they tend to they tend to work in groups. What does that mean? If one people do and they have a good outcome, they will start to tell the other people surround their neighbors, and then their neighbors will follow them, and then it will cause a kind of tendency and an effect, like a domino effect. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. How we know to utilize that kind of culture, that kind of reaction, it will help us to succeed in project management in the way we do. But as a foreign country, a foreign investor, you can say that the colonized mindset with the villagers tend to think that foreigners have a lot of money. So they once one villager got a claim and then won money from us, a lot of other will start to send a claim, even a fake claim, and that's causes a lot of problem.
But because my basic focus will be that one, did colonization reach this point where the village got affected and their dispute resolution system got affected? So how were they resolving the disputes earlier? Did that get retained, or did the mindset that the colonizer brought in change the way they resolve disputes within themselves? Did you see anything there? Do you know anything about that?
The majority of the villagers, normally they send the claim to the head of the community, the head of district, head of town, or head of city. They will not send to the court right away. That is how normally we do. Even in my previous project in Ho Chi Minh City, in a big city, they will send it to the Industrial Park Management Board. We will not send the claim to the court. So, normally in Vietnam, court is not our first choice. The community leader will be our first choice to send the claim to.
But did you get any idea about their internal handling? Of course, not connected to your company. Internally, how they are resolving disputes within themselves? Did you notice anything there? Did you know something about that part?
I can say that I think in Vietnam we created a very strong structure of management, of administration. So first, we will have like hamlets or some like community units, and then the hamlets will have hamlet head, and then above them like the town or the district, and then we have the city or the we call province. So with this structure, people will start to send the claim to that community head first. And if that community head or that people's committee will not help you to resolve the claim, they will escalate it to higher level. I think it is not really, I'm not sure whether it is an impact of the colonization, but I think that it is our culture. It is the community culture. It is the tribe, the indigenous culture that is happening everywhere in the world, and it's still happening now in Vietnam.
But for that one, we have to also look at within the community, not sending it out of the community, but into that smaller community. Do they have people whom they have trusted as mediators? Because we have to differentiate one between the authority figure, that could be the village head or whatever, and the other side, are there others separately, are there mediators, or the village head is doing mediation, or is the person doing mediation, or is it arbitration? Maybe, of course, we will connect it to the colonization to the extent of whether that got affected or not. But so you have some idea what's happening at the community level, within the community?
I can say to you that the definition or the concept of mediation is not popular in Vietnam. So I think the people, they send, or the villagers, they send the claim to their hamlet head or to their town head is for them to be a judge rather than to be a mediator. But there's a group of people internally, they will be set up. They call it like a council, and that kind of council or that kind of a task force will be created to actually come in order to mediate. It is not really called mediate in Vietnam, but it is somehow that is the purpose, is to help the two parties to resolve the dispute in a peace way.
Because the thing is that the word mediation is definitely not going to be used. So we don't have to fall for that aspect that, look, we have to find whether the word mediation is going to be used, because we're not concerned with that. What I was telling you in that inaugural session, that the definition that I'm using is a simple definition. Whatever be the name, however you do the process, as long as that person doesn't have the authority to impose a solution. So we'll keep it as simple as that. So whether that is happening or not, a little more, maybe a study will need to be done. You can have a look at that. But what I'm thinking is, how much time do you have right now? Do you have time?
I think maybe 15 minutes more.
So what I was thinking was, let's break this session, and I thank you here for the English version. And I want to record that separately right now for 15 minutes. Let's record it in Vietnamese, because obviously I will not be able to ask you questions there. So just based on what we've discussed, just put it down into a 15-minute session, totally in Vietnamese, talking about effects of colonization, whatever. I mean, exactly, if you want to, however you want to recap it or put it inside, summarize it. So please do that. So is that's all right with you? I hope that's all right. Yep.
Yeah.
So you want to conclude? Yeah, right now, I'll record it separately. I'll end this, but here, do you want to conclude this session right now? Just conclude the English one, and then we'll start later. I will start the Vietnamese. So you want to conclude? Give your concluding remarks.
So thank you everyone for watching and listening to my session. I hope you enjoyed my session. And I hope that what I share today would somehow be useful for you. What I would like to conclude is, mediation is really an art. I really want every single people in the world can be a mediator. It's not really a professional mediator, but a mediator who will help to resolve dispute. It's not just everybody, this is not the other person dispute, it is also your dispute as well. It is about the willingness to live with good relationships with the other parties, with the people surrounding you. And we are Vietnamese or we are women. We have been through the colonization or not. It doesn't matter. It is how we are today. As being proven that we are having no difference from other countries. We can manufacture, we can manufacture cars. We can produce chemical parts. We can also manufacture and sell mobile phones. We have no difference, and we can grow up more. So Vietnamese people, we should be very confident and be more and more confident, and also women as well. Your part of the part of your life is not at home. It's not doing the small job in a company, in the business. You can do much more. And being whoever you are, you still can be a mediator. Thank you.
That's excellent. Again, very important things you brought out there. One, the aspect of everyone should be, not everyone, I'm saying people who have the skill, still there's a skill there. The professional part of it, I am not concerned with that, because in my conference that we had, there was one session on mediation, a profession, question mark. Is it a profession, or is it a way of life? Is that important? I mean, we have to, so what you brought in there is really important, of course. And the other motivating aspect for the Vietnamese people, I think, one, the politician, we need people like you, because again, let me put it down to that conference of mine, mediators as leaders and leaders as mediators. So what you brought in is your leadership part of it, and your mediator mindset being an important part of that leadership. So thank you very much. I want to clap for you.
Thanks.
And at the same time, thank
Thank
you.
you.
So it was lovely talking to you and listening to you. I think what you brought in are really important aspects. So what I'll do is,
Yes.
yeah, so I'll cut this recording here. I'll start that separately. So thank you very much.
Yeah, sure.
Just give